Welcome to
Redacted
Reviews, the only review of the mental capacity of a cabbage. At heart, I'm a PlayStation fanboy. From when I was first introduced to games, I'd only played titles on the PS2 and PS3. Even now, the only console I have that isn't made by Sony is the Wii U, which I'm sure you'll agree is a good investment. I never played any exclusives from the dreaded Xbox, except from the time I went to my friend's house, who did in fact have the console that shall not be named. And there I played Castle Crashers and Battle Block Theatre. I loved them. And honestly, I was heartbroken to find out they were only on a console I didn't own. But because I don't have object permanence yet, I forgot about them. After a few years, I found the games I desired on Steam, and because I'm financially irresponsible, I bought them on the spot. But that's enough wittering. Now it's time to waste your time with the illusion of entertainment. Both of the games I talk about suggest that you play with a controller, but because I'm a pro gamer, or that my brain hasn't properly developed yet, I decided to go with the base keyboard controls. They're alright. I mean, after a while it feels like your fingers are about to snap off, but other than that, they do the job. I beat the first few levels, died once and said, "Sod this, it's too hard," then quit the game and didn't play for a few months. That is until the same friend I mentioned earlier asked if I wanted to play. Story-wise, it's a lot like my self-respect, an afterthought. I would usually complain about this, but a deep story isn't what the creators are striving for, so it's completely forgivable. Of course, a story is there. You're trying to get a magical crystal and 4 princesses back from an evil guy. Yeah, the story doesn't take itself too seriously. At least I hope it doesn't. The characters are just blank slates, who occasionally act like idiots and have good dance moves. But I can relate to these blank slate heroes, because we have similar head shapes. One of my biggest positives and negatives of the game is its comedy, because sometimes it can be really funny, but other times it's just, haha, poo-poo funny, which can be really distracting. The animation does look great more often than not, but there are some times where it looks quite choppy. But hey, I don't know anything about animating or game design. That's what makes me a true game critic. Despite there being a lot of enemies, they're pretty much the same as your character, just look a little different. Except you have more health and damage. This would annoy me, but the enemies match the location you're in, so it provides me with a satisfying sense of progression. And to be fair, there are quite a lot of unique enemies, like the bees. The bosses are a mixed bag of, that was fun, to infuriating. Almost all the bosses are visually funny, and even when they're not, the devs put a funny joke or reference at the end. The bosses, most of them at least, have clear attack patterns you can take advantage of. Once again giving me a satisfying feeling when I beat them. Maybe I should get these satisfying feelings checked out. Unfortunately, during my playthrough I ran into 4 bosses who matched the infuriating column. These would either have a large health pool and threw a crap ton of enemies at you, or still had a large health pool but would teleport away every millisecond. I always hated Corn. Since the gameplay is the main focus, it'll be what I discuss the longest. Despite the core gameplay being quite repetitive, I think it's really fun. It takes on the role of a side-scrolling beat-em-up, where you take on waves of enemies. To spice up the gameplay, you can find special swords, which upgrade certain stats, and pets, which give you special abilities, while also looking really cute. What the hell is that? When beating up enemies, your character can gain XP and level up. This gives you points to which you can upgrade a certain stat, with the options being strength, defense, agility, and magic. Upgrading the magic stat can give you new abilities, such as a long-range version of the attack. Each of the 4 knights also have different magic, such as ice, lightning, fire, and poison. As I've already stated, this game is tough. Old school tough. But it walks a very fine line of, damn it, so that's bullshit! Calm it down. This can be a problem, because although it provides a challenge, when it slips into the BS realm, it will make you frustrated and want to stop playing. I can give you an example of this, and it's not even a boss. The level that troubled me is called Full Moon, and in the final section of it, your character stumbles into the enemy barracks. At this point, the game decides to throw tons of enemies at you, and that wouldn't usually be a problem, but these ones are specifically called Stoneheads. They have tons of health, and combined with the amount of them, it equals me almost having an aneurysm. I mean, these guys are like hydras. You kill one and 2 pop up. I'm sure this level has mentally scarred me. At one point I passed out and woke up with blood on my hands. Now my cat's gone missing. Despite this, the developers definitely know how to use the gameplay to their comedic advantage. A personal favourite of mine is in the final level of the desert section. There's no final boss. Instead, you have to play beach volleyball with the enemies of that world. You can't progress if you lose. It's absolutely genius! When it comes to replayability, this game has it in spades. When completing the main story of one of the base characters, you unlock a new character. This can range from one of the humanoid enemies in the game. Sure, they're just reskins of the original knights, but some of them have different magic abilities as well. As I previously stated, there's different weapons and pets, but you can only find them through exploring the fairly linear levels. If you keep a watchful eye, you can probably spot a lot of them, although some obscure ones will force the players to go back through past levels. This can be to the game's detriment, as you can see some players getting annoyed having to backtrack, but hey, that's what Wiki's for. Battle Block Theatre is very different compared to Castle Crashers, ditching the beat-em-up style for a more puzzle platformer approach, while also taking the crude humour up to the next level. Battle Block is a lot more colourful, but don't let that deceive you. There are not many games that encourage you to brutally murder your friends. Sure, you could say it's an accident, but we all know the truth, sicko. Once again, this game recommends controller play, but no one tells me what to do, so I stuck with the keyboard controls. Considering that this isn't a beat-em-up, my fingers didn't feel like they were being curb stomped while I was playing. Surprisingly enough, this game does have a story, cutscenes and voice acting. Once again, the game doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, we're talking about the same game that says stuff like butt salad and doo-doo casserole, so yeah, I'm not expecting a heart-wrenching character arc. The story goes like this. You and your friends are on a boat, which crashes into an island after a storm. Evil human-sized cats steal you and your friends, and make them go through twisted plays and puzzles in order to entertain the fat upper-class cats. While your best friend, Hattie Hattington, gets possessed by a hat and runs the theatre with an iron grip. Once again, the characters are blank slates, with the only one of note really being the narrator, and to be honest, he's one of the best parts about the game. Massive props to William Andrew Stamper. His delivery is amazing in this game. Although I can see some people getting annoyed at his voice, the heartless bastards. The comedy of the game remains relatively the same, although I would argue it's a bit more of a focus in this instalment. Whether it helps the game or not is down to personal preference. Personally, I really enjoy the comedy, and there are a lot of little comedic details, like the narrator almost swearing before quickly turning to something more family friendly.
Georgia, boy, he was pissed, he was mad!
Or the sharks that are definitely not sharks. Sure, the poo-poo funny jokes are still prevalent, but you know, I can look past it. And surprisingly, in some cases, they're quite funny. The animation has most definitely been improved, which is expected, considering it is made 5 years after Castle Crashers. Not only does the movement look a lot more fluid, but the janky animations of the last game are completely non-existent. To be honest, I think both games look magnificent. The vast backgrounds and environments of Castle Crashers, the loud, vibrant colours and theatre aesthetic of Battle Block, they're just amazing. Spoken like a true pretentious brat. This game switches regular enemies for traps and obstacles, and takes away boss fights for levels you have to speedrun, which I have dubbed final performances. Although I did just say there are no regular enemies, there are human-sized cats and bread that will attempt to stop you in numerous ways. Whether that be kicking you, or spitting fire? What the hell is going on? Just like in Castle Crashers, the cats are basically just a reskin of your characters, as they all have the same abilities. The traps themselves are fairly basic, such as spikes and water. But since this is a puzzle platformer, what really matters is how they're used in the level. I feel as though the best analogy for the gameplay is a laxative, because it's the same shit every time. Now this sounds bad, but it's kind of a mixed bag. The biggest problem is that this game has a very noticeable gameplay loop. For the first half of the game, it isn't much of an issue, but during the second, it becomes a big detriment. First, allow me to elaborate. Scattered around each level is 5 to 7 gems and a golden yarn. Depending on how you did, the game would rank you on each level, the highest rank being an A++. The level's exit is locked until you can get 3 gems, but to get an A++ rank, you need to collect every collectible and finish the level in a certain time. If you're going for a highest rank playthrough like me and my friend, it's already difficult enough, but during the second half of the game, some levels lock gems and golden yarn behind impenetrable barriers if you're not fast enough. Not only does this artificially increase the difficulty, but it frustrates me beyond belief. When I passed out this time, I woke up in a courtroom. A small gripe is the bonus stages. There's only a few, some of them are quite well hidden, while others are in the open. They look great and have a really nice soundtrack. But my problem with them is that after you complete the stage, it gives you a C ranking. A C? That's not a gamer moment. Without gamer moments, how else am I going to feel oppressed? The reason for this might be so you don't get an easy A++, so maybe my point isn't entirely valid. In certain sections, there's gadgets that help you traverse the level, but be careful, they do only have a limited amount of uses. There are many different props you can get by spending yarn you collected through the levels. These range from grenades and fireballs you can use to brutally murder cats in self-defense, but if that didn't work for me in my trial, then it won't work for you. There are also props that can help you traverse the levels, like a dart that can stick to walls. Finally, to save all of your imprisoned friends, you have to go to a gift shop and spend 10 to 15 gems to buy a headpiece you can wear. You can choose which head shape you want, whether that be square, triangular, circular, or cylinder. Like me, I would get mad at how it's random chance of what you get, but you can't buy gems, meaning no microtransactions, and it makes me laugh how the prisoners are basically stood in giant vending machines. I wonder if I can buy friends. There is very minimal replayability, especially compared to Castle Crashers. If you did an all-A plus run, then you have no incentive to replay the levels, and most likely you've collected all the props in your first run. Unless you feel compelled to collect every headpiece, just like how I feel compelled to feed my sparkling lemon and lime addiction, then I don't see a reason for you to play it again. If you have friends around, or any friends at all for that matter, it is a great party game, and that includes Castle Crashers too. They're great with friends. I have reserved this section specifically for Battle Block, because holy wow is it amazing. There are so many fabulous tunes. This is one of 2 games where I go out of my way to listen to the music, and I suggest you do too. To begin with, I preferred Battle Block Theatre, but after replaying them both and letting it sink in, I now favour Castle Crashers. Sure, Battle Block is funnier and objectively visually better, but for me, gameplay and replayability outmatches both of those factors. Plus, I found myself laughing at a lot of jokes in Castle Crashers as well, although that's probably down to the crack in my brain. But in the end, they're both very different games, so it comes down to, you guessed it, personal preference. But either way, the Behemoth has done an amazing job and remains one of my favourite game companies. I give Castle Crashers and Battle Block Theatre a collective 1 out of 1. You know what? -1 point for making me take a psychiatric evaluation. This is Mr. Shaggy Moppington saying, don't do anything I would do, and definitely not anything I wouldn't. At heart, I'm a damn it. But after damn it. Not gonna lie, I love them. No, never mind. So it provides me with a satisfying and certain moves you can block with damn it. And pets, which give you special ability, damn it. Which upgrade certain stat. Upgrade. Ah, good job. Speed? Legit? No. By upgrading magic, you get new. When completing. No. Despite this, the developer. Damn it. Stored in giant vending machines. Vending machines. Plus. But it. Go on. But in the end, they're very.